May 2021, Alamogordo, New Mexico. We're staying at Mountain Meadows RV Park, which has the typical desert landscape that we expect in this part of the country. Our trip up here could have been better. After cracking the windshield back in December during our drive to Alkaline, this drive saw the passenger side windshield pop out of its frame and now needs to be repaired. So after spending all of Monday trying to find someone to fix the windshield, Tuesday gave us our first chance to get out and we went to White Sands National Park. Because COVID is still a big thing up here, the visitor center was closed, but the rest of the park was open and we took advantage of it. We drove the loop road of White Sands National Park. So first of all, what we're driving on is not really sand, it's powdered gypsum. And that's what all of the stuff around us actually is. The furthest point out on this loop road is Alkaline Flat Trail, and we came out here to hike this trail. Other parks in Texas warn you about bears and lions and alligators. This one warns you about severe dehydration. The other thing they warn you about is unexploded ordnance. The park is next to an active military missile range and is often closed because of military exercise. And it appears that at times those planes actually drop ordnance on the park by accident. Well, anyway, we have plenty of water, we're not going to touch any bombs, so it's time for us to start hiking. So this is the 5-mile Alkaline Flat Trail. There's nothing flat about this trail since you're constantly going up and down these sand dunes. The gypsum has the texture of powdered sugar, so with every step you kind of sink a little bit into the sand. This makes for really difficult walking. The other thing is the color, or maybe I should say the lack of color, because everything is just bright white. We had sunglasses on, but even with sunglasses it was just so bright out there that I spent most of my time squinting. And as harsh as this environment is, there's still life out there. Do you see it? If you spotted it, you're looking at a bleached earless lizard. This is only one of the many animals you find out here. And there it is. White, just like the sand around it. Some of these sand dunes are really steep, and trying to get up and down them is kind of difficult. So I'll tell you, Janet and I went in about a mile and then turned around and went back because there's no way we were going to do 5 miles in this stuff. Once we made it back to the trailhead, it was time for lunch with a view. And where this view might not have been the nicest view we had, it was unique. After lunch, we did some more exploring, and yes, even out here, you can find flowers. But it was getting late in the afternoon, so after a full day, we decided to call it and made our way back to the RV. Our next excursion took us up from the desert and into the mountains. About a half-an-hour drive away from the RV up in the mountains, we found the town of Cloudcroft. It was still a little cool when we got up there, so we decided to start the day by having a cup of coffee at the Black Bear Coffee Shop. After enjoying our coffee, we decided to explore all the little shops on Main Street. And it wasn't long before we found snow. We haven't seen snow in I don't know how many years. The locals told us that they had a major snowfall just a few days ago, and it was going to take a while before it all melted. We explored the whole town and ended up at the Noisy Waters Winery and Cellars. This was a neat little winery, and we thought it's a good a place as any to enjoy some wine and cheese. We really enjoyed the wine and cheese, and it finally actually warmed up outside, so we thought this is a good time to go take a walk in the Lincoln National Forest that's up in the Sacramento Mountains. After spending so many months hiking in the desert, hiking in a forest was a wonderful change. We were high up in the mountains and had a wonderful view all the way down into the valley. You see that strip of white way out there in the distance? That's White Sands. That's where we were hiking yesterday. So a 20-mile drive yesterday took us to an inhospitable desert, and a 20-mile drive today took us up into a nice mountain forest. So back in the 1850s, there used to be a railroad that linked this town of Cloudcroft with Alamogordo way down in the valley. Much of this hike takes us along the old railroad bed that used to be used by the railroad at the time. And as you walk around, you can still find remnants of the old trestles that span some of these little canyons. But we were hiking for the trestle that spanned Mexican Canyon. This was the largest trestle of the railroad line and is today the best preserved. After taking a good look at the trestle, we started our walk back to the trailhead. This was a wonderful hike, and you could really smell the pine in this pine forest. And of course, on occasion, you smelled pine with a hint of skunk. Eventually, we made it back to the trailhead and started our drive back down to the RV after a wonderful day in the mountains. Our next excursion starts with a cup of coffee up in the mountains in the town of Ruidoso. Honestly, we weren't impressed with this town. The main street was just too busy, so after an hour, we moved on. Fortunately, we were advised about Route 244, which was supposed to be a beautiful mountain road that drove through an Apache Indian reservation. So our new plan was to drive that road back to Cloudcroft, where we were yesterday, because we know that there's a nice brewery out there that we didn't have a chance to look at yesterday. The road did not disappoint. It was surrounded by ranches on both sides, cows and horses everywhere. A very, very pleasant drive. So I think now I'll just let you enjoy our drive for a little bit. It took us about an hour going down that windy road, but eventually we made it to the brewery. The brewery had all sorts of craft beers, and it also served pizza. Although we didn't have a pizza, we did enjoy the beer. After enjoying our beer on what turned out to be a beautiful day outside on the patio, we made our way down the mountain. Now I'll tell you, we had heard that there were fires up and down these canyons, but we thought they were all way further north from where we were at. So we were really surprised to find that the road was closed because there was actually fires in this canyon as well. But here we only had minor brush fires. The fire department put them out, and it only slowed us down by about a half an hour. So we made it down the mountain, and that's the way we ended our last day at Alamogordo, New Mexico. So we're leaving tomorrow because nobody up here can fix our windshield, and we have to get to a bigger city if we want to have it done. But we still made it to New Mexico, so we did add another state to our list. And again, it's time to move on. So I guess we'll see you at our next stop.